my point in doing the book, Janetta, was not and I never said that I did it for the good of the families. But as a journalist, I wanted to do an accurate account of an event that people are going to talk about.
And it was not accurate.
Okay, wait a second.
We hear this all the time. They're saying the truth was not told. Why didn't we go to the families for truth? What is the truth? What do you have?
You didn't go and ask the families,
did you? Tell us right now.
But, Carl, isn't it true?
Why didn't you go and ask the families?
Wait a second, Carl. It's a little different to have a reporter who worked for months and months on this story. The first reporter inside the apartment covered it every day for how long, Annie?
Oh, for the better part of a year.
To do that story in book form, and all of a sudden, coming down out of the sky, the vultures from Hollywood.
Oh, yeah, but see, that's so. You know, I'll tell you what.
We started working on our movie in January, so we didn't just come down out of the sky, Maury.
If you think we made this in 2 weeks, you're crazy, okay?
We could easily have taken this whole story and turned it into a horrible thing instead of trying to do a story.
Calm down.
How can you say you haven't seen it? Until you see it, you can't make that
No,
judgment.
it's not.
You can't make the judgment. See it and then tell me that. See it first, tell me that later. Don't set up and try to make a bunch of inaccurate comments about things you don't know about.
Calm down, guys. Back over here, please. We've got to do this in a way that all of us can hear and all of us can understand each other.
What I don't understand is why do we have to see graphic things that we already hear about? We know this is a horrible thing.
Don't check it.
Let her finish.
Why can't we just learn about the truthful story, know what actually happened, and then learn about what these families went through, instead of seeing some poor guy getting hit with an axe? What does that show us? We know it happened, so why show it?
Did you see that axe go into that guy? No, you did not. Okay? Yes, it does matter. Yes, it does matter.
There is a very important point. There is a very important point to make about that scene.
They're talking about making their own movie.
But not in no ghoulish way. We're talking about presenting to America the hideous, racist kind of thing that happens to
Wait a
victims
second.
and
Janetta, hold on for a second. Janetta, wait a secect. Wait a second. Janetta.
The Asian, the black,
what about the white
you
people?
white, the people who wrote the book is white, the one who wrote the comic book is white. They should be, that's what you need to know.
Let's do this. Wait a second. Let's do this in a rational way so that we can all understand, not screaming at each other, because I want to get to this question of racism, because you're mentioning it a lot, and let's deal with it, and then let's move on to other subjects. Yes, Shirley.
I would like to say, no one come and want to know what type of person was Tony Hughes. What was he doing? What was his goals in life? I'm not talking about the movie. No one come forward.
Stop it.
You're the rudest person I've ever run into.
I'll tell you something. I hate the word shut up. I can't stand it. My mother told me when I was 5 years old, after she scrubbed my mouth with soap, if I ever use that word again, I don't like that word. We can be a little more mannered than that, all right? Now, I want to ask, let's deal with this racism thing, and let's deal with it and move on, because there are other aspects of the story. Why do you think they're racists?
Okay. First, you need to know that Jeffrey Dahmer selected minority people because he knew the police wasn't going to care. They was going to let it slip through. They knew that
all right, that's one.
The TV stations were not going to flash them. These people begged for people to look for their loved ones.
I don't think that's the case.
Then along comes the suffrage of the victims.
Yes.
Then everybody that has written a book, turned out playing cards, turned out comic books, turned out movies, has in fact been whites. They all say it's to educate the public and to the good of memorialize the families. The families has clearly spoken out.
So because all those who have done books, done comic books, planning movies, are all white.
They have been distasteful.
You need to write a book then.
We're going to write a different kind about how victims are re-victimized by the system and people. But this is bad for race relations. We want to heal. We want people to love everybody, whites and blacks together.
When we come back, this addition to our discussion, an exclusive interview with one of the very few men, we really don't know how many, who actually got away from Jeffrey Dahmer. After
this. Promotional assistance provided by MasterCard.
104 K-Big.
next guest, we still get that kind of reaction, huh? My next guest says he's sick and tired of people trying to make a buck off a serial killer like Jeffrey Dahmer. No one has ever seen his face. He's never given a national interview before. He's been in hiding for several months. This is Ron Flowers, one of the several victims who escaped the horror of Jeffrey Dahmer. So why now, Ron, would you come forward?
Well, because I don't think that you can really tell the story without knowing the story. One of the crucial elements of the situation is the fact that Jeffrey Dahmer eluded the law enforcement and corrections officials for so long. And there's absolutely no way you can give a realistic portrayal of that situation by talking only to the law enforcement and correction people.
That's a good point, and your story is an illustration of this point.
Right.
How did you meet up with him? What happened?
I was, my car had broken down, and I was at a pay telephone making calls, and he offered to help me out by getting his car and giving me a jump.
A jump start.
Right. When we went to get his car, he offered me a cup of coffee that was laced.
And where did he take you to offer you a cup of coffee?
To his grandmother's home in West Alice.
Okay. He gives you coffee and it's laced. And what happens next?
I passed out.
You passed out. And where do you wake up?
In the hospital.
In the hospital. Did anybody do you know what happened in those intervening hours or half hours or how long it ever took?
Yeah, I read his statements concerning that time period. But
and he said, as I understand it, or he admitted that he didn't want to kill you.
Initially he did. I think that was basically to help his own pride, to aid in his own pride. When I mentioned the fact that I knew that his grandmother was awake, he eventually changed his story and told them that he couldn't kill me because his grandmother had already saw me.
Right. What do you think of the production of this movie?
It's ridiculous. There's absolutely no way that you can portray the situation without having any idea. It's all one-sided. They get the information from what has been written and statements from law enforcement, correction officials, and those kind of people, and they don't know. They're not going to tell you the truth.
As I understand it,
we've looked at your interviews that you've given to people, and none of this meshes.
Which
interviews
did you
why
look
did you
at?
get a ride from a guy all the way down in the gay bar district of Milwaukee, miles and miles away out to West Alice?
To get a jump.
To get a jump. I mean, that's the most ridiculous sounding story I've ever heard in my life.
Obviously, you haven't researched.
What do a gay bar have to do with it?
Calm down now. Now look, he asked a question. Let him answer.
Yeah.
Obviously, you haven't researched the story well enough because I was living in Illinois at the time and had no friends around. So, if you would have checked the information, you would have found that out and not asked me that stupid question.
Well, I just asked you the question. Why did you go all the way from Milwaukee to West Alice to get a jump start?
You don't know what you're talking about.
Well, but what difference does it make whether he went miles? The point. Here's the point.
He got
here's
away,
the point.
and that's the way he's portrayed.
Here's the point. This guy was in Jeffrey Dahmer's company. He probably knows what kind of language he uses, how he tries to seduce people into his own web. What happens there? Did you ever seek him out?
No, we didn't.
He was in hiding.
You know, well,
sometimes when you don't get every piece of the puzzle, you wait to get every piece of the puzzle instead of rushing to produce a movie and get it out just because you want to be before all these other guys rush and do their movies.
But on the other hand, he is not the central focus of the story. He is a very tiny, little, minute part, okay?
Hey, calm down.
No human being is tiny and minute.
In contrast to the story element, okay? When you look at a story...
The fact that I reported it to the police is one of the biggest things that could happen in the story, and they eluded it. And don't patronize me by telling me I don't understand, because I understand more than you think I do.
You don't understand because you have not seen the movie is the fact that the Milwaukee police are portrayed as not responding in the correct manner every time they brushed against a case. But you don't understand that. You're making a judgment on something you haven't seen.
And you made a judgment on something you have not seen.
All right, stop.
And neither have you.
My son.
Once again, you haven't seen any of the portrayals in their entirety, so you don't know how it's done.
Right.
You're making judgments that you
You've
can't
made
make.
that point over and over again. I've got to get to our audience because they seem very much involved.
Well, Silence of the Lambs was the biggest top grosser. These people are just cashing in on gore that other people have gone out and seen. If the public would stop seeing these gory movies, then people like this wouldn't make those movies.
Silence of the Lambs is far more explicit, okay? Believe it or not, Silence of the Lambs has a lot more gore in it than we do. Way more.
We'll be back after this. We'll be back after this.
So,
You like that, huh?
yeah. This is gonna cost you a lot extra, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Did you put something in my drink?
It's gonna cost you a lot extra, buddy.
I would just like to say that my heart goes out to the families, and that I know that I would not pay 1 cent to see your film or any other film that promotes propaganda.
That's your choice. Yeah. And over here, stand right up. What would you say?
I agree that this is a gory movie, and I agree that this is a gory subject. You cannot deny that these murders were gory, and I'm interested in learning about the story, but my problem is, why do you have to over-sensationalize it?
But would you go to see the movie?
I would not go to see his movie. I would go to see a movie that depicted the crimes, depicted the family's feelings. You cannot deny that this is a gory subject.
How do you know it's over-sensationalized? How do you know that?
I don't know your movie.
You don't know that. You're making a judgment on zero,
I'm not judging your movie.
You just did. You said you wouldn't go see it because it was over-sensational.
I'm saying that I would choose not to see it. I'm not judging your movie. Based on the fact I do not want to see gore.
Okay, well, that's fine. But don't sit there and say we're over-sensationalizing because we don't. We don't glorify what Jeffrey Dahmer did in the least bit. Okay.
One of the things they do is to give a false impression that all of the victims were prostitutes or hustlers. Look at this young professional man here. Does he look like a hustler or a prostitute? You're giving the wrong impression of victims.
Excuse me, Joe, but we never, when we portrayed Ron, we did not portray him as a prostitute.
I thought you said you didn't portray me.
No, we never said that. You said that some of your friends saw some clips on TV and called in and identified you, so you know full well that we did portray you.
Character of 3 different people.
All right, listen. The arrogance with which Carl defends this movie is insulting. He shows no sensitivity to the victim's family, and the portrayal is one-sided. How can you say that guy had just a minute part in the portrayal of the movie?
No.
It affects the whole outcome of things.
True.
I think you're very sensitive. You're arrogant, and nobody should see the movie.
Okay, that's your opinion. That's great.
Yeah. We're glorifying psychopaths, and we're making it a trend to pop people in the head of lovers and Amy Fisher and things like that, and to become famous and to have things written about us, and I think it's got to end.
Yeah. See, we need a comment here.
Ron, what happened when you went to the police? What did the police do? Did you give them Jeffrey Dahmer's name?
I remembered his name as either being Jeff or Jim or something like that. I told them that, and I took them back to the house. When the police
here's what's interesting, right?
When the police went to the house with me, he wasn't at home, and they went back later that day. He also wasn't at home, so they left him what they call a referral note.
Call the cops.
Which is a note.
Please call us when you get in.
Please come in and talk to us about this complaint that this individual waged against you.
Maury, that's one of the upshots of this case in Milwaukee, and that's one of the after effects that I hope that the Milwaukee Police Department and the West Dallas Police Department, for that matter, has been called on the carpet. They've realized they have to be more sensitive. They've realized that our dirty laundry is hanging out in front of national television.
And I'm sure these
police
people
have to
didn't
respond
realize
better.
that. No.
Actually, we did.
Okay.
My name is Art Murchison, and I've worked with the families since July of last year. This is clearly racism. Not only...
I thought we dealt with this.
No, we haven't dealt with this because the people, as Janetta said, that are doing the movies, that are doing the books,
are all white. And you don't think this is by...
insensitive
and you don't think this is by coincidence?
No, it is not.
Okay.
The lady who called the police when Conorak sent the song was going down the street, buck-naked, drugged, bleeding from his behind, was black. They would not believe her. They didn't believe this man who was a victim. And these people are just monopolizing upon the misery of these families.
That's crazy.
They don't know about how these families call up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and Miss Robinson or myself have to get up out of our beds to go and address their problems. They don't care. All they care about is lining their pockets.
But that's only your opinion.
That's your opinion.
We'll be back after this. Be right back.
I just want to give my opinion on both of your parts. I could understand for public awareness because making these movies so this way you're aware, and I could understand the devastation of the family, and I could understand like the family doesn't want these killers.
Will you go see the movie?
To make no, I don't think I will.
Okay, all right. Yeah, yes, stand right up.
From what I've seen in the clips, it seems like you're trying to depict that these people have, you know, died in vain. What I'd like to know, I'm asking the producers, what's your purpose in making the movie? Are you trying to teach the public about serial killers, or is it for entertainment purposes?
There's definitely a social consciousness that comes along with this movie.
Nothing about this
every
movie anybody
portrayal that we do in this movie, whether it's a composite or a fictionalized situation, has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it brings forth the social connotation that Jeffrey Dahmer could be a guy
Maury,
living
another
in your
point that
building.
really that I'd just like to make very quickly is that when these gentlemen came to Milwaukee, our station interviewed them for a story, and we took them to the Oxford Apartments where this had happened, and they had seen the building, and they said, "Wow," they said, "we did a good job of portraying this." And I said, "You mean you'd never seen the building before?" And they said, "No." They said, "This is the first time in all our research we couldn't get a picture of it." And I'm thinking that I couldn't go anywhere without seeing a picture of that building. And to me, that is what troubles me, is the lack of accuracy in putting that together.
Yes, my sympathy do go out to all the families, and God bless you that you were able to make it out. And I have a question for you. Did you get a thrill out of doing this movie? Because it seems like, you know, there's no like insensitivity at all with him.
You know why? I'm sorry if I come off that way, okay? I can't even imagine the pain of having one of my relatives murdered, and I don't claim to say that. I can't even imagine that.
Is it coincidence, Carl, that you at one time in your life were you were an embalmer in a mortuary?
Embalmer, yeah. No,
you were an embalmer in a mortuary?
I was an apprentice embalmer.
Maury,
does that lend some expertise to this?
Well, as an actor, it gives me a point of reference. Other than that, it really has nothing to do with it.
Maury,
I grew up...
Yeah, you grew up what?
Maury,
my father was a cardiovascular surgeon, so I've grown up around the medical element all my life.
We'll be back
you should have seen him correct
If you would like to join Maury in the studio audience, then please write for free tickets. It's the Maury Povich Show, 221 West 26th Street, New York, New York, 10001. Postcards only, please. Guests of the Maury Povich Show stay at the Lowe's New York Hotel, offering the finest in comfort, service, and value, conveniently located in the heart of Manhattan.
Carl, maybe we can fill in a couple of blanks here. I don't know why you wanted to write and star in this movie. I mean, you are not a name we know of. I don't think any of us have seen you in any movies.
Right.
Why?
Well, first of all, the story is the star. I don't claim to be the star of the movie. The story is newsworthy. It made world news. And I thought I could add what I thought that I could create a story that would be more sensitive. And you can't tell that from looking at the clips that you've shown. Okay, there's probably about 15 minutes of a 2-hour movie that deal with the violence. But the rest of the movie deals with Jeffrey Dahmer. What made Jeffrey Dahmer? Why was he like that?
Let me ask you, Ron. How are you holding up? How are you dealing with this?
Well, I guess I do okay, except for when I have to see stuff like this.
Brings back a lot of bad memories.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Shirley and Janetta, for coming to the show today. I think it was very important that Carl and David come. It was very important that they be here, because then, you know, you want the people, you want the source, you want the genesis, you want to know where all this started, and they started it. So I'm glad they were here.
And Maury, we want America, good and decent people everywhere, not to go and see this movie. We will break these filmmakers.
Annie Schwartz, I want to thank you so much for coming. Thanks very much at WISN, and the people out there have been very good to us in the past, and I'm glad you were here because you were there from day one.
Well, thank you. If we don't talk about it, it's doomed to happen again.
You lend all the credibility needed. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Until next time, America.
A promotional fee has been provided by Capri Bath Products with natural floral essences. Leave you feeling fresh. A complete line for your bath and body. Capri gives you softer skin. Sundance, made with pure fruit juice and sparkling water. No sugar added. And that makes Sundance a natural refreshment for the whole family.
Tomorrow, it's Maury in Nashville. Vince Gill and Reba McEntire will show us why America is going crazy for country.